Hello everyone, welcome to an episode of Moestories. And before I begin, I will leave a timestamp below so you can get to the main feature. But for now, I just want to give you a quick update about my progress with my computer and everything, and and a couple little bit of other news. But you can go to the timestamp to get to the main feature, which is the Moestories. But for the moment, just the update. Now, my new computer, I tried it today to make a new video for you, this video here, and everything was going fine. And then again, when I went to do the exporting of the video, it jammed right up. When it gets to 90 to 95%, and it jammed right up. So I tried to make a video for you guys this afternoon, being Monday, but now we're kind of Tuesday. I'm doing this at 12:41 a.m. for so just try to get something out to you. Now, also, I wanted to give you some news about my roommate situation. It pretty much looks like I have a roommate. There's just a bit of paperwork to be done, but it does look like I have a roommate. So I will be fine for October. And it's a young kid. He's only 19. It's his first place. And because I'm a type of guy, I don't discriminate. I'm not racist or anything. He's a white guy anyway, but it didn't matter. But yeah, he was just a 19-year-old kid. His it was his stepmom who got in contact with me and everything. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's going to be a different little situation. This time it's going to be a male. It's a guy. Like my last two roommates were female, and look how that turned out. They stayed for less than a year, both of them, and then they wanted to move out for whatever reason. Well, we all know the reason why they moved out. If you can go back in my previous episodes, look back in my history, and you can find those videos where I explain what happened. So now, after saying that, okay, I want to get into my episode. Now, this episode of Moestories is going to be about. I want to tell you stuff about my childhood and growing up. Just little tiny stories here and there. There's a lot more to come, but I want to try to give you an idea of my personality, of why I am the way I am, and it'll give you an insight into my psychology and philosophies in life. Now, as a kid, okay. Now, okay, I'll first start off by telling you where I used to live. I was born in Moncton in 1971. I I was here. We lived in the city for about maybe till I was about one and a half, and then we moved up to my grandparents' place up in a little place called Kokang. It's north of here, alongside the shore, and we lived up there for about a good 7 years. Then we moved out of my grandparents' place for 2 years to live in Buktush, which is just a little bit north of Kokan. Whatever in French is Kokang, and in English is we called it Kokan. But we lived up there in Buktush for about 2 years, and then we moved back for a couple more years in Kokang before moving back to Moncton in in 1983, pretty early on in 1983. And I've pretty much been living in Moncton, except for those 10 years where I lived in Montreal in my throughout my entire 30s. But you already know about that because I have my Mo stories. Previous episodes you can check out for that, my Montreal adventures. Now, yeah, so after saying that, being a little kid, I was mostly babysat by the TV. TV was my favorite thing growing up. My parents knew if they put me in front of the television, I was going to be transfixed, and yeah, so I pretty much was raised by TV more than my parents. You could say all my values, all my insight, all the things that I love was inspired by either TV or music, and which I'll get to in a second there. But for the TV, as you may or may not already know, because have talked about it in my past episodes, where there was only two shows as a kid that I really always wanted to watch, and that was either Star Trek or Spider Man. And but mostly Star Trek, believe it or not. There was something about Star Trek, even as a 2, 3 year old kid. I knew that it was something special. I knew that it was a smart show that was ahead of the curve. You know, I don't know, I think I was a pretty astute kid growing up. I had a certain understanding of things. Now, how much I love Star Trek, I'm sure my first words must have been Captain Kirk or Spock, one or the other. I'm pretty sure it might have been Captain Kirk. That's just me saying that. I might have said Mama, Papa, but I'm pretty sure my first words. I would have to say my first words probably Kirk or Spock. Now, at first it was Captain Kirk who was my hero, but then very quickly, when I got a little older, it really became Spock. I was obsessed with Vulcans and the whole Vulcans don't lie, and they believe in logic and understanding and being and learning what logic was. So much of what I learned about life mainly came from Star Trek. And I mean, Spider Man was just happy fun, just fun stuff, you know. But yeah, I learned a lot of my moralities, my first moralities, more from Star Trek than any other source. More than my parents, more than the school, more than the church, and all that. Yeah, Star Trek, I would say, and jokingly say, that it was kind of my religion. I very quickly learned how to do this, and Spock was such an influence on me that, and this is kind of funny if you think about this. When I do my eyebrow raise, I do it on my left side, not my. I have a harder time doing it on my right, and it should be obvious why. Because when you're looking at Spock and you see him doing it on the TV, you're looking at it on TV, it's like a mirror image. So you want to do it on the same side that he was doing it, but not knowing that it was actually reversed, that I should have been doing it on this side, which which as you can see I kind of have a hard time doing. So me learning how to do that, and I can only do one eyebrow, it's because that's how I learned it. I learned it from Spock, and I learned it on the wrong side because I didn't know any better as a kid. Go figure, eh? And yeah, so Star Trek, and then many other shows after that. Like the $6 Million Man. There was Buck Rogers, and so on and so forth. All through the '70s, all through the '80s. Yeah, so many TV shows, and of course, I love science fiction more than anything else. Anything that was science fictiony, that anything that was not of this earth, that was just be like more than this realm. That's what I loved. I loved anything, any type of program that was outside the box. And so yeah, and of course, as you if you may know already, switching gears a little tiny bit, my favorite music at the time, my favorite band growing up was Kiss. When just that first debut album, you see them in the makeup on and everything, it was fantastic. It was like real life superheroes. They weren't cartoons. They were actual people, and you believed that they had special powers. That Gene Simmons was hatched from an egg, from a demon egg. Ace Frehley came from outer space. Paul Stanley was born out of a star, and Peter Criss was raised by cats. That's what you believed because you're a little kid, and they were larger than life, 100%. there was that. I mean, how could a kid my age, at that age, not love Kiss? You know, when my uncle brought that album, that first debut album, from like I think it was like right from the beginning in 1974, where he brought that album into the house and he played those songs for the first time. And even when you got to Black Diamond and the way at the end it cranks down the volume, like wow, 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 it was just yeah, magical. It was a magical time. So I have a memory of when Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park came out, that movie. Now I wanted, me being a super huge Kiss fan, but it came on a weekday, on when and I had school the next morning. I think I might have been like in grade 2, maybe grade 3, I forget now, but I had just started school and I had school the next day, and I had to go to bed early. My parents didn't want to let me stay up to watch Kiss Me the Phantom of the Park, the premiere of it, on TV. And yes, I know years later it's a bad, really not well made movie. It's actually so cheesy and corny and 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 but I didn't care. Like, well, at the time, I didn't know what it was. And they should have let me watch it because I would have watched the movie, went to bed right after, and went to sleep. But no, because they didn't want me to watch it, I ended up staying up the whole night anyway, and being all angry and pissed off and mad and not and resentful of my parents for not letting me watch it. If they would have just let me watch it, you know, it would have it would have been better for everyone. Oh, because I hated them for weeks after that. Because I wanted to, I tried to sneak down a few times to catch glimpses of it here and there, and no, it was just, yeah. I remember how horrible that was because I so wanted to see it. Yeah, I managed to see it many years later, and yeah, it's terrible. It really is like, what were they thinking? It was such a bad production and everything. So yeah, there was that thing. Now, a little insight into my parents. My parents were not the brightest. They had me a little. They were too young when they had me. I was not planned. Basically, I was sort of a mistake and everything. So I was never really. I don't know. I was never really treated right by my parents. Not exactly. There's another story. Not, I mean, around the same time as when Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park, it might have been maybe a year or so later that I think, yeah, I might have been 8 or 9 years old. Now, where the house was in Kokang, with the where my our grandfather's house, it was, our backyard was a schoolyard because the school was maybe a house, like two houses away. It was just right there. You could look out the back porch, and you could see everything in the school. Right directly behind our house was a baseball field with one of those big baseball net things, and right behind the pitcher's mount, like right behind where the catcher's mount. I've climbed that once, and didn't I fall on my back and lose my breath and stuff. But here's the crazy story. One day, okay, down in the backyard, being the schoolyard, there was this kind of a trail that a car can go down, and it was in back of the schoolyard, more on the right side, and you could go down. And there was two more baseball fields, and there was these really heavy bushes along one side of it, and there was even a place where you could go and hide inside the bushes. There was like a hollowed out section of the where the trees were, but kids all went, and you would be able to go inside and everything. One day, as I was walking down, as I was in that area, wasn't there like a car that was kind of stuck in the ditch in that, like where the trees and stuff is, about halfway up the field. And this guy was going to pay me $20 to get in the car and hit the gas while he had it in reverse. And while he was out there pushing the car to try to get it out, I was in the car pressing on the gas. I never drove car. I'm a 9-year old kid. I wasn't really into cars, but I wanted that $20, so I was willing to get in there and press the gas and get help him get the car out. But didn't my dad start coming down, wondering what the commotion was, and saw me in the car and dragged me out from the window and gave the money back to the guy and started just yelling at the guy, "You should have more sense than that for letting a kid do that," and blah blah. Like thinking I could have gotten hurt, and I probably would have gotten hurt. I didn't know any better. I just wanted that $20. Oh yeah, I was grounded. I got spanked and everything. So yeah, I'll never forget that. And so switching gears again, sci-fi was my okay. I tried to do well in school. I really tried to be a good student. To try to study and try to learn math and English and stuff like that. But the home life was so so much drama and chaos all the time and fighting and arguing and everything that it was so hard for me to 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 get ahead in life, like to actually do well in school and everything. Because I love science fiction. I actually liked school, but they made school hard for me. And the more it was weird. The more I was learning and stuff, the more distance I would get from the more my parents and family didn't really understand me, because I was always using words that they just couldn't understand. I was always learning new stuff that they just they would tell me all the time, like, why are you using they called it $1 million words, why are you using such expensive words, $1 million words, like, can't you just speak normal English? I go, well, that is normal English. That's what this is called. That's what that is called. For example, when my dad was going to school, he learned that the moon was a planet. And when I was going to school, I learned that the moon was a satellite. And I was trying to explain to him, and we got in a big argument about it. He was saying, no, the moon is a planet. And I'm like, planets go around the sun. Satellites, which the moon is, goes around the planets. That's the way I was being taught in school. I said, that's what they're teaching me in school. Well, he's like, that's not what I learned in school. I'm sure he thought I was making it up, that I was making fun of him or something. He never heard the word satellite before, and he had no idea what a satellite was. Like, for him, I think a satellite was one of those things that like Sputnik and that it was just like a man-made thing when they went after they went to the moon and that. So yeah, little things like that. I have all these memories of just these weird arguments, always being misunderstood by my parents, and me always trying to be a better person, always trying to do the right thing. But it always made it hard on me, you know. So like I remember also when I first moved back, when we moved to Moncton in like 1983 and that, I remember also, like, to make things worse, and but not for me personally, but like trying to relate to my family. I had this big brown Gauge. It was called the Gauge Dictionary that I would read constantly and learning what things were and the right way of saying things. And I carried it everywhere. I always had a backpack on me and carried it everywhere I went, everywhere. And so when anybody had was saying, well, would make a mistake or something, I would take out my dictionary and say, look, no, 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 that's look what the dictionary says. It says this is that, and it didn't help anything in my case with my parents and family and that. I was just always so misunderstood and yeah, I was berated so often and so much, not by my dad so much because it is my mom. My mom is the one that really kind of berated me and put me down pretty much all my life because she didn't plan on having kids, especially three boys, three. I have two younger brothers, no sisters, and we're all like basically a year and a half apart each. They're me first, and then the middle child, and then and then the youngest. Like pretty much within 3 4 years. Yeah, pretty much within 3.5 years, we all get born. So we're all roughly, you know, almost the same kind of, close together in ages. But I would get blamed for so much things that I did not do. So much stuff that the middle child, not my youngest, he was the baby of the family, and I was never ever jealous of my youngest siblings. Never. They would get so many like they would get brand new bikes and I would not even get a bike. You know, like they both got brand new bikes and I would get nothing. When it came to Christmas time, so often I would get nothing, because like or very little. They would always get the best presents. But you think I would be jealous about that? Not really. Not really. What kind of bugged me is not it wasn't the stuff for Christmas, is where my birthday was. My birthday is in January, January 7th. And everybody's broke after Christmas. After it's Christmas and New Year's, and everybody's broke and nobody has money. So, never once in my life, never once have I ever really had a good birthday. I always had lousy, lousy, lousy birthdays. And that's just, because I was born in January. And my other brothers, they were born, before Christmas and that. And so they would always have the opportunity to get better presents for their birthdays and stuff, and then Christmas, and then when my birthday came around, yeah, nope, nope, it's just terrible every year. So, but you think I would be bitter by now about stuff like that. I mean, a tiny bit maybe, but not really. I've gotten over it. I mean, this is the whole point of this Mo story, is to let you know basically that I'm beyond that. I'm I I've tried to do the best that I can to do whatever I can for myself. I learned to be independent as early as I could. The second that I was able to move out of my parents' place, like get a job, get an apartment, I did. I did. I There's nothing more important than having your own independence. And to sum up everything, from the TV shows that I watched and the movies that I watched, like Star Wars, and like my heroes was basically Gene Roddenberry, like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas. The people who inspired me more than any people in that was in my life. That all of my morality, all the person that I became, is all really due to the my love of media. I hate commercials. I really can't stand commercials, and I hate being sold anything. But yeah, so I'm gonna leave you with one little kind of story of something I used to love doing. This is the last thing I want to say. Something I used to love doing as a kid that would annoy the crap out of my parents is that while other kids would go out and play in the yard or go and do stuff outside, very often I liked staying inside. If I couldn't watch TV and that, I would sometimes hide in the cupboards or somewhere where I knew they wouldn't know I was there, and I would sit there and just listen to the adults talk because I wanted to understand them more. I wanted to understand why they talk so crazy and why they were always angry about different things when I just so yeah, I would do that quite often. I would just listen to what the adults were saying, and every once in a while, yeah, I would get caught, and they would say, "Well, why are you listening to our conversations? Go out and play with the rest of the kids. Yeah, you're weird." It's like because I want to understand. I want to understand why things are the way they are with you guys. Why you can't relate to me the way I need you to relate to me. But like I said, I gotten over that. I understood. I finally understood where they're coming from. My mom had certain mental illnesses that I later on in life became aware of. Like she was manic depressive and bipolar and that kind of stuff. And yeah, they where and also that wherever we lived, we were always the poorest family in the neighborhood. So everybody else always had more than we did. But yeah, but as I said, when I became of age to be on my own and be independent, I did my best to provide myself with whatever I could to make myself happy. And I am a pretty happy guy most often. I'm always friendly. I like talking to everybody. I have no discriminations, no prejudice. I just want to get along with people and be liked. I don't have a fear of not being liked, but I do want to be liked. I love having friends. I don't have too many friends, but I do have a few people I can actually call friends. I have one best friend for sure, little as I may have talked to you about before, called Little Mo. So this is almost a 30-minute video. I wasn't planning on making it too long, but I did want to talk about things about my life and just to let you know where I'm coming from most of the time that you understand the type of person I am and why I am kind of the weirdo that I am. And I am a weird guy, but you know what? Everybody has a bit of weirdness in it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being weird. You know, let your weird flag fly. That's what I say. Weird I can handle, crazy I can't handle. So, I'm just going to leave it here before I just ramble on about nonsense. But anyway, as always, okay, please be safe. Take care. I will see you on the flip side. And please, everyone, have a great day, evening, night, wherever you may be. Peace, everybody.